It's 2021 and the FBI is investigating widespread match fixing allegations in Counter-Strike. And we're not talking about random players throwing meaningless matches for a few $100. No, we're potentially talking about organized syndicates paying players to throw professional matches. Now, not all of the details have been made public yet, but if the initial reports are true, this controversy could shake Counter-Strike and Valorant to its very core. Okay, hit the sub button, like the video, hit that notification bell so you never miss new content. And if you want to see a story covered here on Don't At Me, send us a tip at tips@thescore.com. Last week, we learned that the FBI is working in collaboration with the Esports Integrity Commission, or ESIC, to investigate match fixing in NA Counter-Strike. On March 31st, the head of ESIC, Ian Smith, did an interview with a small YouTuber by the name of Slash32 and said exactly that.
To some extent working with law enforcement, with the FBI, who only recently have had a sports betting investigative unit within the FBI. So they're quite, they're good, but they're inexperienced because sports betting has never been a big thing in America until recently. And so everybody's kind of finding their feet on that one.
Now, Smith referred to this situation as a classic case of match fixing, meaning, quote, outside betting syndicates were bribing players to throw matches, and apparently this wasn't just random players doing it sporadically. And the amount that's being thrown around right now is $2,000 per player per match fix. It's essentially the type of match fixing more commonly seen in professional sports. Here's Flom and Slasher talking about that during an entire stream dedicated to the controversy.
$2,000 per player, guys, was the average that Richard was saying yesterday that these guys were throwing per matches. $2,000 to compromise. You have so little confidence in your own ability to be successful in Counter-Strike that you threw a fucking match for $2,000.
According to Smith, this situation is systemic within NA CSGO. It involves a small specific group of players. It's been happening for quite a long time, and apparently they have a ton of evidence, things like Discord messages, betting slips, other chat logs, in order to prove it. Smith concluded that portion of the interview by saying that ESIC should be able to release a statement within the next 2 weeks. Now, not surprisingly, the CSGO scene lost its collective shit, speculating on who could be involved, what kind of evidence they could have, and how serious these allegations are. That speculation was fueled by videos like this one that Slash32 posted, which speculates that former MDL players and now prominent professional Valorant players, Poised, Shanks, and Marved, were all involved.
Today we're going to cover a CSGO game in ESEA Premier, or the Mountain Dew League, that was suspected to be thrown by Shanks, Poised, and Marved, whom are all successful Valorant players. I put this first clip in just because I thought this was a very questionable push, especially on the first gun round, and really clips like this they're very subjective and you can kind of think what you want, but they litter the whole demo.
Then on April 1st, Dexerto's Richard Lewis reported that Valorant developer Riot Games launched its own investigation into former MDL players suspected of match fixing who had switched over to Valorant, with Poised, Shanks, and Marved all being included in that list. Now, recently, after a short trial run, Dignitas decided not to sign Shanks to its Valorant team, and they dropped Poised from its roster entirely. Marved, on the other hand, is currently the IGL for FaZe Clan's Valorant roster. Here's Flom on players potentially breaking the law and how switching to Valorant isn't some magical solution, because, as we know, Riot Games can jump in and investigate that shit too.
It felt like I was in a simulation where like everybody else is just like, oh, they're not even gonna get banned in Valorant. I'm like, motherfucker, they broke the law. People are like so disconnected from reality now on the internet. It's terrifying. These dudes are literally saying because they're playing a different video game, they don't deserve punishment when they broke the fucking law.
Then on April 2nd, HLTV subsidiary Dust2 reported a leaked conversation between MDL players Rechi, 4Pack, and Nosrak discussing plans to fix 2 different matches. The recording was sent in anonymously, but according to Dust2, they've been able to verify the players involved by speaking with other ESEA Premier Division players. Now, in the written transcript of the audio, which we're showing you here, Rechi and 4Pack from Team Rebirth are allegedly discussing an upcoming match against a team called Russian Canadians that they were planning to throw. They talk about the fact that Russian Canadians' IGL Vec allegedly agreed to radar for them, and I'll explain what that means in just a second, but first, here's a quote from the transcript. Quote, "He does. He agrees to radar, on the condition that I'm letting him use 2 Bitcoin sites, and I'm going to share profit from those 2 sites. And Joel's is okay with it too, and they're not. I told them there's no way you tell Battery or Saturn. It needs to look like a legit try-hard game." End quote. So 2 things. Getting someone to radar for you is when someone streams their radar in Discord to the opposing team, allowing that opposing team to play off any information given. And the whole point of getting someone to radar for you is to make the loss look as authentic as possible. Basically, it's a good way not to get caught match fixing. The second thing pertains to that last line of the quote that I read you. Quote, "I told them there's no way you tell Battery or Saturn. It needs to look like a legit try-hard game." End quote. So these dudes allegedly weren't even going to tell their teammates what they planned on doing? As a result of Dust2's report and the leaked audio, on April 3rd, ESEA, who runs MDL, announced that 3 players from Team Rebirth and 2 players from Russian Canadians would be suspended until the conclusion of ESIC's investigation. They ended the tweet by saying, quote, "We continue to support ESIC and will always enforce actions against violations of competitive integrity." End quote. Now, stick with me for just a second. Back in February, before any of this was reported, Vec, who you'll remember as Russian Canadians IGL, somehow learned about this recording and released a twit-longer disavowing anything to do with match fixing. Quote, "It has come to my attention that a report regarding NA match fixing will be released soon. In this report, allegedly there will be evidence of someone saying my name regarding a match. I would like to clarify that. The alleged fixed match was not played, it was a forfeit loss. Also, there is no evidence of me personally agreeing to anything because I am not involved at all. This person says my name, I do not know why. I cannot control whose name they say and for what reason. I am preemptively making this statement because I cannot foresee how this evidence will be presented by whomever is going to release it. If any platform decides to ban me on conjecture alone, then my hope is people recognize that and be aware of it moving forward." End quote. And like I said, this is all anyone paying attention to Counter-Strike and Valorant is talking about, and rightfully so. Here's another clip from Flom and Slasher discussing the controversy on stream.
I don't want to say they should go to prison, but I also do, because it's not, like we said, this is far worse than the iBuyPower scenario where we're dealing with people that intentionally manipulated a system for their own gain and worked with others to do it. Like, this is straight up just like organized crime. This isn't like kids, you know, making a mistake. Like, it is, but it also isn't, right? Like, it's a bit more than that.
Like Flom mentioned in that clip, this controversy could blow the iBuyPower scandal from 2015 right out of the fucking water. Like, with the FBI involved, who knows how big this could be once all the details are released. And if you don't know what the hell happened with iBuyPower, well, we've covered that story roughly 1,000,000 times.
CSGO's 2015 match fixing scandal is one of the biggest scandals in the game's history. 4 of North America's strongest players were banned overnight, cutting their pro careers short.
Okay, with the most recent news out of the way, how the f did we get to this point? This situation is so serious, the FBI felt the need to step in. Well, see, ESEC has investigated a ton of different Counter-Strike scandals over the last year or so. It roughly started in August of 2020, when tournament organizer ESL announced that certain CSGO coaches were abusing a known spectator bug. Then in September, ESEC came out with a ruling banning coaches who abused that bug. And at that point in time, personalities in the scene were chomping at the bit for more info. Flom, for example, tweeted out that he had heard rumors, but wanted to see concrete proof of match fixing in MDL after retired CSGO pro and current Valorant pro Zelsis vaguely accused a bunch of players on stream.
Like Nerfed and Calypso and Rebirth Esports and
My God.
had a Snapchat group and everything.
They had a Snapchat group of people throwing matches?
Yes.
Marv and Shanks threw matches? Dude, I can't be saying this, man. Actually, I didn't know it was this deep.
See, people could tell something big was coming down the pipe, but at this point in time, the FBI were still just a skin you could buy in Counter-Strike. Nobody thought that a government agency was going to get involved. Then in December of 2020, ESIC dropped a giant report claiming that there were widespread instances of stream sniping happening at the highest levels of CSGO. And then in January of this year, they dropped what was a bombshell report at the time stating that 35 Australian CSGO players were banned due to instances of illicit betting. We also covered that situation when it happened.
35 Counter-Strike players have been banned from 1 to 5 years after an investigation into illicit betting, all according to a report from the Esports Integrity Commission. And the crazy part is, this might just be the beginning.
Now, in the statement ESIC released regarding the Australian betting bans, they wrote this, quote, ESIC is currently undertaking other investigations which compromise the examination of a number of other CSGO leagues, including leagues located in North America, Europe, and a significant number of other leagues and multiple game titles. And this is the first official hint that we got that ESIC was looking into something bigger other than just random players betting on matches. I reached out to Smith for comment regarding the FBI's involvement in this investigation, but didn't hear back in time for publication. Now, obviously this situation is insane and we all have a million questions. Here's where I'm at with all of this. This situation could end careers and affect the future of Counter-Strike, sure, but more importantly, this could have a huge effect on Valorant's young competitive scene. Think about it, depending on the names involved and the scope of Riot's own investigation, how many Tier 1 names could be implicated in this scandal? Slasher tweeted as much recently. So the question becomes, if Riot does find specific players guilty of egregiously match fixing, what do they do? In my mind, it doesn't matter that it happened in a different game. If you let the results of an FBI investigation go unpunished, you have a huge PR disaster on your hands. I can't believe I have to say this, but if you match fixed in one game, switching esports does not magically stop the FBI from coming after you. This is a criminal investigation we're talking about here. Like, imagine we learned that big splashy orgs propping up the tier 1 scene unknowingly signed someone who match fixed in another game. Do they immediately kick that player or just let it ride? Also, I know Valve is notoriously hands-off when it comes to CSGO's competitive scene, but they have commented on previous ESIC investigations, so I'm curious to see how they'll respond to this one. For the moment though, all we can do is wait and see how bad the damage actually is. Come on down to
F-wording
Devin's Auto Body, where I will not sell you a car and I'll just tell you to
F-word
off.
The only dealer that tells you to off. Hurry up, asshole. This event ends the minute after you write us a check. And it better not bounce or you're a dead motherfucker. Go to hell.
F you in the fucking face.